Śrimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Srila Prabhupada's transcendental translations of the Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki. Go Premanande, Hari Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So reading from the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, 6th canto, chapter 1, the genealogical table of the daughters of Manu.
4th canto. 4th canto.
4th canto. Oh, that's all text. Sorry. 4th canto, not 6th canto. And we're on text 6. And can you repeat after me? Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Uvahaya jushampati.
Uvahaya jushampati.
Tushtayam tosham apano.
Tushtayam tosham apano.
Janayat padasha atmajan.
Janayat dvadasha atmajan.
Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Uvahaya jushampati.
Uvahaya jushampati.
Tushayam tosham apano.
Tushtayam tosham apano.
Janayat vadashatmajan.
Janaya dvadashatmajan.
Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Vahaya jushampati.
Vahaya jushampati.
Tushtayam toshamapanno.
Tushtayam toshapano.
Janayat dvadasha atmajan.
Janaya dvadashatmajan. Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Uvahaya jushampati.
Vahaya jushampati.
Tushtayam tosham apano.
Tushtayam toshamapanno.
Janaya dvadasham tmajan.
Janayat dvadasha atmajan. Tam kamayanam bhagavan.
Uvahaya jushampati. Tushtayam tosham apano.
Janaya
Jadaya
Dvadashatmajan.
Dvadashatmajan.
Tam Kamayanam Bhagavan
Tam Kamayanam Bhagavan.
Vaya Dushampati
Vahaya Tushampatihi.
Tushtayam Tusham Appano
Tushtayam Toshamapano.
Janayan Vadashatmajan
Janaya Dvadashatmajan. Tam Kamayanam Bhagavan. Vahaya Tushampatihi.
Tushtayam tosham apano.
Janaya Dvadashatmajan.
Tongue,
Tam.
her,
Her.
Kamayanam,
Kamayanam.
desiring,
Desire.
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan.
the Lord,
The Lord.
Ubaha,
Ubaha.
married,
Married.
Yadusham,
Yadusham.
of all sacrifices,
All
All sacrifices.
Patihi,
Pate.
master,
Master.
Tushtaya,
Tushtaya.
in his wife,
In his
was
wife.
very much pleased.
In his wife was very much pleased.
Dosham,
Dosha.
great pleasure.
Great pleasure.
Apanam,
Apannaha.
having obtained,
Having obtained.
Ajanayat,
Ajanayat.
gave birth,
Gave birth.
Dvadasha,
Dvadasha.
12, Atmajan,
Atmajan.
sons.
Asat.
Translation. The Lord of ritualistic performances of yajna later married Dakshina, who was anxious to have the personality of Godhead as her husband. And in his wife, the Lord was also very much pleased to beget 12 children. Purport. An ideal husband and wife are generally called Lakshmi Narayan, to compare them to the Lord and the goddess of fortune. For it is significant that Lakshmi and Narayan are forever happy as husband and wife. A wife should always remain satisfied with her husband, and a husband should always remain satisfied with his wife. In the Chanakya Sloka, the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, it is said that as a husband and wife are always satisfied with one another, then the goddess of fortune automatically comes. So this verse says these three things. You don't have to go to the goddess of fortune and beg for her mercy. If you have these three things, you don't worship fools, so don't worship any of the politicians of today. Have stock of grains, and if the husband and wife are not at each other's throats, then goddess of fortune will automatically come. And it says ideal husband, ideal grihastha. So I'm speaking as ordeal grihastha. So a professional mistake maker of 25 years. So not as ideal. But I can tell you different mistakes and how you can avoid them. In other words, when there's no disagreement in husband and wife, material opulence is present and good children are born. Generally, according to the Vedic civilization, the wife is trained to be satisfied in all conditions. Okay, so this is where we start telling people, you all just be satisfied. There's a nice verse where Prabhupada in the first canto, he says, the Brahmanas were never attentive to banking money for future retired life. Anybody here Brahman initiated? Any of you have bank accounts? Okay, now you have to temple president's going to call you up. Okay, give us your bank account information. Everything must be offered unto us. It says the Brahmanas in the society were never attending to banking money for the future retired life. When they're old invalids, they would just approach the wives of the assembly of kings. You know, you Brahmanas who have bank accounts, you don't have to have your bank accounts. Just approach the pious kings of today. So there's simply by glorifying the glorious deeds of the performed by the kings, they were provided with all necessities of life. Such brahmanas were, this is from the first canto, chapter 1, canto 1, chapter 11, text 23. They're provided with all necessities of life. Such brahmanas are not to speak flatterers of the kings, but the kings are actually glorified their actions, and they are sincerely more encouraged by the pious acts of such brahmanas in dignified ways. So here it's saying, Prabhupada's saying the brahmanas didn't have bank accounts because they could just approach the pious kings. And so similarly, you have here it says the wife was trained to be satisfied in all circumstances, and the husband, according to Vedic instruction, is required to please the wife with sufficient food, ornaments, clothing. So it's a two-part. Then if they're satisfied in their mutual dealings, good children are born, and the entire world can become peaceful. But unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are no ideal husbands and wives. Their wanted children are produced, and there is no peace and prosperity in the present day world. Tam kamayanam bhagavan uvaha yadushampati tushtayam tosham apam janayad vadashatmajam. The Lord of the ritualistic performance of yajna later married Dakshina, who was anxious to have the personality of Godhead as her husband, and in his wife the Lord was also very much pleased to beget 12 children. Om Jnana Timarandasya.
You took your mic off.
Okay. Oh, I took it off. Oh, because it's on the shutter.
Can you just do that one and see if I can hear the tap? It's working. There's a problem yesterday.
Got it?
I don't think it's working.
No mic?
You just go as normal and
Okay.
try to pretend like I'm not here, but we're going to try to fix this.
Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Swapadantikam Katanshana Smite Asmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vishmite Viparitam Shat Shri Chaitanya Namamitam. So Baladeva Vibhushan, in his translation and commentary in the Bhagavad Gita, he divides the different practitioners of devotional services into 3 categories. Is this familiar to anybody? Hadai? You know the 3 categories that Baladeva Vibhushan divides them, the devotees? So the Sanishta, Parinishta, and Nirapiksha. So Sanishta is someone who has some attachment to Krishna, some attachment to devotional service, but they're kind of just progressing through, as you see in the Bhagavad Gita, they're progressing through Karma Yoga, then to Jnana Yoga, then Ashtanga. They have some attachment, but they're basically Hindu. They're just kind of in the Vedic system. That's the Sanishta. Here's a little description here. Sanishta Bhakti follows the gradual process, Nishkama Karma Yoga, Varnashram, followed by Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and finally Bhakti Yoga. Thus, all processes described in the first 6 chapters can be considered essential for the Sanishta Bhakti's development. Now, if you're Sanishta Bhakti, you perform Dharma for the purification of heart. Now, the next one is the Parinishta. If you're a Parinishta Bhakti, you perform dharmas to teach others. So here, a little description of the Parinishta. The Parinishta Bhakti directly engages in the devotional process of hearing and chanting as his main sadhana. He performs Varnashram rules, but without attachment, only to set the example for less advanced persons who do not have strong faith to practice bhakti as their main sadhana. It is the Parinishta devotee who is described in this verse because he offers all of his actions to the Lord, not just the prescribed actions. This is understood by the Lord's instruction in this verse. Whatever you do, offer it to me. For the parinishta bhakta, nishkama karma duties become optional and secondary to sadhana, the sadhana of bhakti, composed of direct process of hearing, chanting, and remembering the Lord. So this is the difference between the sanishta and the parinishta. So what's the difference between the sanishta and the parinishta?
Levels of attachment.
Okay, and what else?
One is
Yeah.
practicing dharma for himself, the other one is practicing dharma for others.
Okay,
To teach others.
Teaching others.
and then behind, my friend back there?
Those are the two that I picked up, the attachment to.
What about the process? What are they doing?
Setting the example, following Varnashram, that's Parinishta.
But parinishta, his main sadhana is hearing, chanting, and remembering. Whereas the other one is going through nishkama karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and eventually bhakti yoga.
So one is pure just bhakti yoga, and the other one is a variety.
He's progressing through the ladder.
Through that until
Yeah.
they finally get to bhakti.
Yes. So the performance of dharma is required for these types. Welcome, Krishna. So the performance of dharma is required for these types, but not for the nirapiksha. This is understood from the Shri. So the nirapiksha, let's hear about the nirapiksha. Nirapiksha bhakta performs only bhakti and rejects the rules of varnashram. He is usually a renounced person. So this nirapiksha is usually not grihasta, he is usually sannyasi or babaji, he is completely renounced. The latter two types of devotees are called ananya bhaktas, so the nirapiksha and the parinishta, those who their sadhana is mainly hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna. They're considered superior because of their direct practice of bhakti. These two types are described in the middle 6 chapters and the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. This explanation of the relationship of varnashram to bhakti may be useful to readers in their application in their own lives. The nirapiksha devotee, an unmarried person, performs only the activities of bhakti. The parinishta bhakta, the householder, performs the activities of bhakti as well as prescribed duties offered to the Lord, but secondarily. The verses describing pure bhakti are performed by both types of devotees. So why am I bringing this up? Generally, we often overestimate our advancement and underestimate the need for shelter. And so this verse is specifically talking about married life and the husband and wife. And oftentimes when there's a hard shift between brahmachari life and grihastha life. And the brahmachari will come into the grihastha life with the mood of treating his wife as a brahmachari, or and not understanding the need of anybody know this? What is the statement? Shanai Shanai Upadame. What's that? What is those? What's that? What are those Sanskrit words? Shanai Shanai Upadame. Means step by step. So when you hear the word step by step, what are some thoughts that come to you?
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady. What else?
You try to renounce step by step, slowly.
Gradual.
Gradual. What else? What else? Something. Even just think of someone stepping. What does it really mean?
Progress.
Going forward? There's something else there. There's something else there. One, you don't take your second step until you're firmly grounded in the first step. So you don't. There's like a. What happens when you have a brahmachari grihastha or a grihastha brahmachari? They call it a brahmashtra. You fully, if someone is going to become a grihastha, then they have to fully put their weight on that foot. Don't try to, put half your weight and then jump over to take the next step. Then you'll just stumble and fall. It means you fully have to immerse yourself in that ashram. What are the 4 schools that devotees are encouraged to go to? 4 schools. 4 schools are the 4 ashrams. These are called ashrams, they're schools. Actually, you're supposed to learn things through these different stages. Like, for example, in brahmacharya, there's so many wonderful things you can learn. You can learn even just how to be solitary, how to find a deeper satisfaction within. And then in grihastha life, you learn more of like so many other things: conflict resolution, cooperation, so many things that are there. And so one has to fully put their weight into that step. Here's an example of and what may be a kind of a step down for somebody in a particular position is actually a step up. We find this in the Bhāgavatam. We have in the Bhāgavatam, Narada Muni tells a king, don't kill animals. He was, that's King Prachini Barishat. He was killing animals in Vedic sacrifices. And he says, don't do that. And then Narada Muni told somebody else, kill animals. Who did he tell that to? Mrigari. He said, kill animals. He said, because it was a step up from where he was at. It was a step up from his position. Because he would half kill animals and he would torture them. And he would take pleasure in watching them slowly die in pain. And he said, please kill the animal, which was a step up from him. And he ultimately was completely purified by the exchange and association with Narada Muni. So there are actually, depending on our particular situation and qualifications, there are different steps that are there for us. And we have to understand our particular position. If we enter the Grihastha ashram and we don't fully put our weight into it, we think that, okay, let me just live somewhat brahmachari life in this Grihastha ashram. I will be very cold and not very affectionate because, if I say some nice words or give her a hug, it might lead to illicit activities. So let's just, you stay over there, I stay over here. Actually, there's a book called Heart and Soul Connection by the Grihastha Vision team, put together by a whole band of devotees in ISKCON. And it said one of the major reasons of separation of devotees is that this lack of affection, because they're afraid of being affectionate, because of illicit sexual activity. They're afraid to be intimate, affectionate. And so here, I'll read. This is a verse from the 11th canto, chapter 21, text 17. Samana karma charanam patitanam napatakam aito patiko guna sango nashanat pati adaha. The same activity that would degrade an elevated person do not cause fall down for someone who has already fallen. Indeed, one who is lying on the ground cannot possibly fall further. Material association is dictated by one's own nature is considered a good quality. And of course, this is not Prabhupada's purport, but this is the purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And here it says, for sannyasi, should a sannyasi be, Srila Prabhupada's sannyas anniversary was yesterday. We spoke at the Bhakti Center on sannyas. Srila Prabhupada said that if you have any sex desire, if you have any desire, you should not take sannyas. If you're like, oh, that's a nice car, you cannot take sannyas. If you want to travel, you cannot take sannyas. If you're like, I'm fed up with the family, there's so much trouble, you cannot take sannyas. That's the sannyas of the Mayavadis, the karma sannyas, jnana sannyas. But the sannyas of the Gaudiya tradition is for someone who is completely done with all material desires, and it's simply for the spreading of Krishna's holy name. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the sannyasis are living mridangas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they go around singing the glories of the Lord. And so here it says, for a sannyasi to be attached to women, bad. That's what it says in the purport. But if the grihastha attached to his wife, good. And it says, for the brahmana to be attached to alcohol, bad. But for the alcoholic to come to the point of just one a day, good. That's the Lord further, this is the purport here, right here. The Lord further describes the ambiguity in ascertaining material piety and sin. Although intimate association with women is most abominable for the renounced sannyasi, the same association is pious for the householder, who is ordered by Vedic authority to approach his wife at a suitable time for procreation. Similarly, a brahmana who drinks liquor is considered to be committing the most abominable act. There was that story of the disciple who stole the Sanjivini mantra from, who was that brahmana? Shukacharya, I think it was. And he was, his body was burnt to ash, and he was mixed with alcohol. He kept on being killed and then brought back to life. Killed and then brought back to life. And then the last part was something with alcohol. And then after that, there was a curse that any brahmana who touches alcohol has fallen. You can find Amala Bhakta Swami. He does the short stories. That whole story is there. Very, very fun. Similarly, a brahmana who drinks liquor is considered to be committing the most abominable act, whereas a shudra, a low-caste man, who can moderate his drinking is considered to be self-controlled. A piety and sin on the material level are thus relative considerations. Now, Prabhupada, he doesn't just leave it there. Of course, we have those who are come to the Krishna conscious movement and taken certain vows. Any member of our society, however, who receives diksha, initiation, to the chanting of the holy name must strictly follow the 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no fish or eggs, illicit sex, intoxication, and no gambling. A spiritually initiated person neglecting these principles will certainly fall down from his elevated position of liberation. And similarly, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, you also have the different gradations for the different ashrams as well. For example, for the different varnas. For example, the Shudra Varna, there's only one ashram. Grihastha ashram. They don't take sannyas, vanapras, or brahmacharya. For the Vaishya, there's only 2 ashrams, brahmacharya and grihastha. For the Kshatriya, there's 3 ashrams. There's brahmacharya, grihastha, and vanapras, and the brahmana is the only one who's supposed to take sannyas. So based on our particular qualification, there are different levels of shelter, different things that we need to apply. For example, I served at the Dallas Temple for 15 years as the congregational director, lived right across the street from the temple. And so what does that mean as a parent, of several, I have 3 kids, I have 2 biological and I have 1 adopted kid. So it means that for festivals like Janmashtami, Radhastami, most of the festivals, it means that the kids go to the temple, but they don't feel like they're doing something as a family. It's just, dad is running off, mom is with the kids. And it doesn't create a nice family samskara. One might think, oh, I'm doing service all day long on Janmashtami, very good. But these, like we said, you have to fully put your weight on that shelter. It means you have to make sure that you're taking care of all the necessities of that ashram. One of our favorite Janmashtamis as a family is when there was COVID and there was no temple to do Janmashtami festival. We did it at home, and it was, the family was together. There is several books about religion. You have the book Heart-Soul Connection. Jay Shetty has a book where he takes the 4 ashrams and he pulls out lessons from, he took eight rules of love, and he pulls 8 rules out of the 4 ashrams, what you could learn from those four ashrams. And he uses the word brahmacharya, grihastha, vanapras, sannyas. This is for his, broad audience of, millions of people who are just coming across this stuff. Where is it? Brahmacharya means preparing for love, grihastha, practicing love, vanaprastha, protecting love, and sannyas, perfecting love. And so he takes lessons, he shares different relationship lessons there. However, there's another one that's very important, is Gary Chapman. He's a minister, but he's an author of a famous book. Anybody heard of Gary Chapman? He's the author of the 5 love languages. And you will find a correlation between these and, for example, the 6 loving exchanges between devotees. Like we just read the purport here about the brahmanas who had no bank accounts. And he had talked about praising the glorious deeds performed by the king. So these are, one of the 5 love languages is words of affirmation, words of encouragement, kind words. And the kind of basic principle of the book is that somebody may be affectionate, but that the other individual may have another language or another way they perceive affection. And your offerings of service or your compliments may not be received as affection because that other person sees affection as quality time. And you're like, well, I work so hard. Or I say you look beautiful today. I say nice things. Or the other person, so there's quality time, words of affection, or there's acts of service. There is gifts. Yeah, gifts. That's one of them. And the last one is
Quality time.
I think I mentioned quality.
Gifts.
Affectionate touch. Affectionate touch. Yeah. So the devotee may come home and be afraid to give his wife, come home and give her a hug because this is, we're stoics, great stoic brahmachari grihastas. But this, like I said, you have to fully put your foot down. This step-by-step means you fully honor the place where you're in and understand that ashram, that you need that particular place to be in. We are not the nirapeksha devotee who renounces all sense of varna and ashram. We're not Shukadeva Goswami. We're not the perfected Parinishta, but we're on the path of the Parinishta Bhakta. Arjuna is a Parinishta Bhakta. We should not think ourselves more advanced than the best friend of Sri Krishna. And so, here's some thoughts and ideas about this topic. Stop here, see if there are some reflections, comments, and questions. What will you take home? Yes? We have a microphone, so we will... Okay, here it talks about, in the purport, it talks about gifts, one of the 5.
Thank you for the very informative class. I guess I have 2 questions. Should you just ask them
Yeah.
at the same time? Okay. So first one, about that topic that you just mentioned, about this, brahmacharya grihastha transition thing. I was just wondering what your realizations and experiences about why there's so much fear and anxieties about this. And another question about like not from the necessarily from the books, but from your own experience. Because you have so much experience and realizations. And another question about the bank account thing for the Brahmanas. Bank account.
Bank account, yeah. Because well, the last part of it is you could just go to the kings.
Yeah, so
And
I
just
was
glorify the
thinking,
pious
how can
kids.
you relate it to nowadays situations? For example, as a Brahmanas, we're even now encouraged not to work on anybody. Like Brahmana not supposed to work under anyone, right? Someone pays you or something. But then I find it sometimes difficult to just literally just accept money for your service. And even though I might spend hours and hours doing some service, which is outside of the temple, but then it's just so hard to accept money, and it all still comes to donations, and kind of. But honestly speaking, if you introspect inside, then I realized I do need money. So, but then this philosophy and then the reality, it clashes. So, how would you need help?
Thank you. So first one, my brain's a little slow. I've been sick for 10 days. So the first one was, remind me again? The fear, yes. Yes. So when I joined the ashram, there were 30 brahmacharis and 5 brahmacharinis. And I don't know how many of them are still even devotees, unfortunately. Just less than 5, I think. I don't know. There's often, and you might have seen that experience yourself, is that, there's often a person feels very uncomfortable, kind of that transition. I think there needs to be more a practical, real talk like this, having talks with the young devotees, so they can understand how to approach the ashram without rigidity that will cause a lot of heaviness and tension, and understanding that there's a lot of affection and support that needs to be there to build a healthy relationship. We don't even have any kind of relationship or making systems in our, maybe I think in London they have some, I think in New Zealand they do, but most temples don't have anything. So, you have two things. In the past, you have girls stay away from boys because your parents will arrange the marriage. And now we just have girls stay away from boys, but how is there supposed to be any kind of arrangement? There's no any kind of system. The temples don't have systems. The communities don't have systems. So there's no way to kind of. I know I've heard Devarita Swami and Shivaram Swami speak about this, where New Zealand took a program in from London, how they help people go through these transitions. Otherwise, it's people are just left alone. And it's not just the relationships, it's work. As you said, the second thing was the work. Prabhupada did encourage devotees. The Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are meant to be independent. He did encourage them and to have their own kind of independent business. And if you imagine more devotees had more independence, they become more strong, more financially stable, more financially healthy. He gives the example of his godbrother he was born in the Nabi family. And this godbrother, this family was so wealthy that as anybody who was born, there was some 5,000, 7,000 rupees that would be deposited into the bank at birth, and then you cash it out with interest at 18. And Prabhupada called this family, said that their whole wealth started off with one dead rat, called a dead rat business. It was one ancestor in the family. He was approaching his friend and said, "Hey, I need some money. I want to start a business. And his friend said, hey, you're a Vaishya. There's money everywhere. Don't you see? And he said, do you see that rat? That's money. And it was true that the municipal government was giving money to people to take rats off the street because of the plague that was going on. The plague is related to the fleas on the bodies of the rats. So if you took a rat off the street, they give you 2 annas. And so with the 2 annas, he bought some kind of bad beetle nut, washed it up, sold it, and he kept on going like that. And then Prabhupada, in this talk, he goes on, he says that many families in the morning, they will go out and sell some grains in the morning, and then sell some kerosene in the evening. And he said, the Brahmana has full faith that if I just do what's of my nature, if I employ those activities, if I work hard, and I employ the elements that are in my nature, I will be taken care of. Brahmana has full faith. The Kshatriya has less faith. The Vaishya has even less. But he has faith, and therefore you see him, he was like, I'll find something, I'll do something. And the Shudra, he says, has no faith. And so he encouraged us to try to become independent, try to start some business, start some project. Even in our spiritual practices, we can live in a temple for a long time, but it's good to start our own preaching endeavors, become a little independent. Okay, I'm going to start this program here. I'm going to go start a program at this college, and it's going to, something that I'm going to, take responsibility for. And so that moving towards that kind of independence and responsibility. But yeah, many people their nature is going to be to be employed, even if they have some kind of intellectual work. Maybe likely that intellectual work requires employment. A lot of times, someone's nature is like that. Computer programmer, it's intellectual, but you're working under somebody. Any other? Yes.
I have a question. It seems to be like in this age, nobody is fully a Brahman or a Kshatriya or Vaishya and if we are sort of in between, what trades should we employ? Like if we feel like we're closer towards one varna or the other, is it okay to follow our lesser varna, I suppose?
And there's a purport in the Bhāgavatam where Prabhupada is encouraging us to always take a step up in regards to the varnas.
So if somebody is between, let's say, Vaishya and Kshatriya, you should
Like Vaishya, Vaishya and Shudra, then okay, if you're a plumber, then try to start your own plumbing business versus just working for a company. It's like you gain some independence. And with that, there's a purport in the 7th canto, Prabhupada says, where the devotees should work 8 hours a day so they have time for sadhana, have time for family, time for all the everything that as we hear in, sixth chapter Bhagavad Gita, one should be balanced in recreation, work, all these things, that there needs to be a balance there. So that's one of the things of independence, is having the ability to balance one's own life and sadhana. Whereas if you're an employee, sometimes you don't have that opportunity. You're asked to work 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, etc. And then you have hard time pulling in the sadhana, putting in the family time. The house is like a business too. If you don't invest in it, you invest in the time in the family, then it's not going to thrive. Krishna. Anything you want to take home today? Any take homes?
Just figuring out. It's like, how do you know at what moment that you feel confident enough to move from an ashram to another? Is it like a natural feeling, or is it?
And generally, it's age 25 is that you're, you know, it was just generally at a particular age.
I guess it's not so structured in.
Yeah.
And if you still feel like a student, and I'm age 25, so I'm feeling this familial pressure from my parents, like, Krishna, get married, it's time, you know. But like, I don't know if I feel ready for that. So.
I like what Jayarita Swami says about Vanaprastha. He said, you know, he was saying, well, somebody asked about, you know, taking Vanaprastha later, and he said, well, yeah, you could just plan to die later. It's like, you know, do it at 60, and then you can, you know, die at, you know, some other little later. Just postpone it also.
I had a question and a comment.
Okay.
So the comment was Krishna's. I was in Mayapur recently, this last year, and then one of my close friends from England, he was actually in Gurukul, and then so he transitioned from Gurukul to he graduated. So basically, what I saw the system, he invited me to his graduation at Gurukul, and then so it's basically like the community comes together and they just they just bless this boy, and they say, now you've learned all the arts, the Vedic arts and all this, now you can graduate to kind of the next thing. So I think one thing that's an important thing is that to get the ideas of the blessings of seniors when you're kind of making that shift to the next ashram or new ashram, is get the blessings of seniors, get their ideas. And I was just reading this verse while you were speaking about this 11:21:17, and then the next verse it kind of quotes that I'm kind of somewhat play devil's advocate.
Oh yes, please.
So in the purport of the next verse, they're quoting this famous verse: Mahaprabhu Bhakta Ganar Vairagya Pradhan Yaha Dheki Prita Hoy Gaur Bhagavan. Renunciation is the basic principle of sustaining the lives of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees. Seeing this renunciation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is extremely satisfied. So you said, you cannot be brahmachari and grihastha, you have to choose one. But if we look at the lives of some people in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm just thinking of Srivas Thakur, he wouldn't work, and he would just stay all night and do kirtan, all day serving the devotees, and then he basically whatever comes to him, he'll accept that. And even when his son dies in kirtan, he's just is so detached.
Yeah.
So why would the Panchatattva are obviously expansions of the Lord? Why would Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu want to show this feature as an example of the Grihastha ashram?
Because he's a nirapeksha, indifferent. Nirapeksha means indifferent, neutral, complete, like Shukadeva Goswami, completely unaffected by the material level. But we're not. I don't know if anybody, if we have any here in New York City who are nirapeksha. We're more likely parinishta. We're just engaging in the devotional service, and in perfection, we're just performing all the dharmic things just for the example of others. So we're doing everything dutifully for the example of others in perfection, and in leading to that perfection, we're doing those things because we also need to be doing those things. So the sanishta is the one who is, again, what is sanishta? Sanishta is the one who is
following karma.
He has some attachment to Krishna consciousness, some attachment to Krishna, but it's not a primary thing. And he's basically, Sanishta sounds like the modern Hindu. Basically, he's connected to the Vedic system, and he's progressing through the ladders of the various. He's going from Varnashram to Jnana Yoga to Ashtanga Yoga, and then eventually to Bhakti Yoga.
Or Muslims. Muslim?
Doesn't say anything about Muslim.
Awesome. Somebody who's doing pious deeds too.
So yeah, he's going through the chapters of the Gita, going through 1 through 6, going through the Karma Yoga, going through these various stages. And the Parinishta, he's hearing and chanting and remembering. Bhakti is he's Ananya Bhakta. Means his desire is bhakti, his goal is bhakti, but he's fully taking shelter of the dharmic expectations of him. Nirapeksha, most likely, most of the time renounced. Usually, it says here, usually renounced person. It doesn't say always. So that sounds, this is an example of Nirapeksha devotee. As we mentioned earlier, we often overestimate our advancement and underestimate the shelter that is needed. And think, okay, I can just behave like a Nirapeksha devotee, but I'm not a perfect Parinishta devotee like Arjuna is. More, any last comments, questions, or reflections? Anything? Prabhu, what will you take home with you today?
I definitely,
Take the mic.
yeah, I definitely really resonate with the essence of putting your foot down and being grounded in your first step before going into something else. I think that, like you just said as well, it's like we overestimate how grounded is something before we continue. It could be pride, it could be envy of other devotees, it could be just many things. And I think that being grounded where we're at and what we need to do is really humbling, but also how we make progress with firm faith, like longevity. Like you saw, it's like you have 30 brahmacharis, 5 brahmacharis, and you think maybe 5 or less have stayed. That's alarming. It's not alarming, unfortunately, but in terms of being grounded in each step is really important, I think, for that essence of longevity and true progress, that patience with ourselves, and knowing where we're at. I think that comes with truthfulness as well.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah. So I really love that, and I really resonated with what I think is important.
Thank you. All right. Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki
Jai. His Grace Nityananda Chandra ki
Jai.
Go to Bhaktivinda ki
Jai.